Because, ladies and gentlemen, Whovians, it's almost been 2 years since Catherine Tate as Donna Noble and David Tennant as the 14th Doctor burst back onto our screens. Something that I always felt a bit incomplete from the specials was the lack of kind of explanation for David Tennant's return as a separate incarnation of the Doctor and not just the 10th Doctor. Actual explanation given for why we are seeing David Tennant's face again was always put down to the whole therapy arc, reminding the Doctor that, he needs to take it slow and, bringing him back to Donna Noble so he could have said therapy. But I really don't think that quote-unquote excuse really works within the context of the show, and it's always left me with a yearning feeling to actually understand why that face would have returned. So I always put down David Tennant's return as a brand new incarnation, the 14th Doctor, down to a line that Tom Baker as the curator said in the 50th anniversary.
And in years to come you might find yourself revisiting a few, but just the old favourites.
Now, I always liked this line as a piece of foreshadowing for an eventual Doctor's return, just like how David Tennant returned as a brand new incarnation, the 14th Doctor, and I think it works really well because we are presented with this idea that old faces of the Doctor can return, and 10 years later, lo and behold, David Tennant returns just as a brand new incarnation, just like how Tom Baker did with the curator. But that really doesn't explain why a old face of a previous Doctor might return. Whilst realistically, nowadays it doesn't really matter. Now we've got companions being the Doctor, or maybe it's the battle, who actually knows what's going on with that, but ultimately I want to theorise, because I think it's got something to do with the Edge. Now we saw the Edge in The Power of the Doctor, Jodie Whittaker's regeneration, where we also saw the introduction of the 14th Doctor played by David Tennant, and I think the Edge plays an important role in this, especially because as well in The Power of the Doctor, we see this whole thing about manipulation and tampering of regeneration. My own personal theory is that the whole tampering that the Master did with the Doctor's regeneration led to a bit of a mix-up at the Edge, this metaphorical thing within the Doctor's head, which kind of produced the 14th Doctor's face. With all the talk of previous Doctors protecting the Edge and crossing this ravine to seal the fate of the 13th Doctor, I do think this is a possibility that this whole tampering with regeneration and the Edge kind of all confused the Doctor's system and kind of like spit it out, the 14th Doctor played by David Tennant. I think that works really nicely within the context of The Power of the Doctor, the messing of regeneration, and I like that as a consequence of that episode, a ongoing consequence that kind of connects Power of the Doctor directly to the 60th leading into Ncuti Gatwa. I think it gives a really nice flow through that current era. I would even go further to say that the tampering with the Doctor's regeneration in The Power of the Doctor and the Edge spitting out this 14th Doctor played again by David Tennant even led to Bi-Generation to correct that effect, because the Doctor's regeneration had been tampered with. That is something that was a consequence of that and the whole mess up at the Edge. And yeah, we kind of have like a half answer to Bi-Generation in the reality war, but it really doesn't make much sense and it's kind of just chunked out there. This is something that I do just really like. I like this whole idea that the Power of the Doctor and the whole tampering of regeneration there led directly into the 14th Doctor. Of course, this isn't something that you, the viewer, need to believe. You might have your own headcanon theories about this, which I would love to read down below, because I just think anything would be better than, this Doctor's face came back for some therapy. And ultimately, I know I'm going to get a lot of comments saying it's Doctor Who, things just happen, but when it's something like this, I do think there should be an explanation, and I like the idea that there are ongoing consequences from the Master fucking up with the Doctor's regeneration. I like that concept. I like that idea, so that's my personal headcanon. And I actually think that there being reasons and consequences into why the 14th Doctor has the 10th Doctor's phase actually strengthens the quote-unquote foreshadowing that Tom Baker gives in the 50th anniversary. Of course, when Stephen Moffat wrote that, he had no idea that the 10th Doctor, played by David Tennant, would return as a brand new incarnation, but I think there being actual consequences kind of just does add to all of that. Hey-ho, in a time where nobody really knows what the fuck's going on with Doctor Who or anything else, I think little headcanon theories like this are okay, because realistically, this is never ever going to get an explanation unless, the 14th Doctor decides to return for that one Christmas special that they're doing next year. I'm going to leave it on that note. Happy Doctor Who Day to everybody. I hope you've had a great day of watching and stuff with Doctor Who. Please feel free to leave your thoughts on Doctor Who and this video down below, and maybe where you first experienced Doctor Who, as it is Doctor Who's 62nd anniversary.